Is Linda Alela. It is time for Morning Cafe, where we take you through the stories of the day, the news of the day, what you expect. We're here to update you, but equally we have comprehensive conversations revolving around the issues that are making news. So welcome on board. It's always a pleasure to have you join us and importantly be part of the session. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela at TV47KE. We'll be having the numbers rolling down on the screen. And as we continue with the conversation, we encourage that you be part and parcel of it by calling in and equally dropping those SMSs, and I'll gladly sample them before we get to wind up the show. So welcome on board once again. Like we say, there's so much in store for you. We'll be taking a look at what is on the papers, but importantly first, we take a look at what has been prepared by my team. And now, protests against COVID-19 funds were held in Mombasa by a section of civil rights groups. The protesters were demanding action taken against those involved in looting of billions of shillings meant to fight a coronavirus. Now, 6 of the protesters were arrested, and the protests have called on President Uhuru Kenyatta to intervene and calling upon the government to ensure that they get to find answers and hold those ones accountable, culpable for that. So let's take a look.
The protesters claimed that they were raided during the day, houses in the villages and shops destroyed.
Recently, before hii ya Marepa, walikuja maili 9, wakachapa wanabiashara wa maili 9, wakapora mali.
Ingia kwangu, wakapazua simu na wakachukua pesa 500 ilikuwa kwa kabeti. Na hiyo pesa ilikuwa ndaka nilipe nyumba.
Lakini walikuja wakafunja kila kitu. Nyumba hata ikakuna ilikuwa imefika karibu ifike kwa dirisha, lakini walipomoa yote mpaka chini.
Property worth thousands of shillings was lost during the operation that has left the residents asking for answers from the authorities.
Sina capital sasa ya kuanzia tena ndio nianze nyumba tena nichenge.
Walifunja nyumba yangu, because by then hata mimi nimekuwa tu hapa nje, wakakuja kufunja mlango yangu, wakafunja draw.
Small scale traders in the area alleged that the askaris ate goods from their kiosks while harassing them.
Venye Kanjo walifika na marungu wakatuchapa, alafu time yenye tunakimbia na wakaanza kufurusha hapa kibanda, wakakula ndizi yote, walimaliza stock yote mpaka na avocado. Hata nikashangaa ilikuwa ni vita ama walikuwa wanakuja kutumaliza.
Several shops were also destroyed, including those under construction. They have appealed to Uasin Gishu Governor Jackson Mandago to stop the county law enforcement officers from operating without observing the law.
Tutafanya nini? Sisi tunataka haki yetu, wakuje tu Mandago watupe haki yetu, ili hata wakitukujia tukatai. Hao ni watu wa sheria, wakitukujia tukujie uzuri.
Human rights organizations in Eldoret have condemned the raid and asked for investigations into the matter. Center Against Torture Executive Director Kimutai Kirui said the most affected were small-scale traders in the village who are also squatters.
Kuvamia raia na kuharibia mali yao namna hii vile hii imeharibiwa is actually against the law, na tunaomba police katika baharini penye incident imeripotiwa uchunguzi ifanywe haraka na hao watu wakamatwe na wapeleke kotini.
Yes, that is right.
However, Governor Jackson Mandago's security advisor John Kemboi said he wasn't aware about the operation and had started investigations into the allegations against the officers. Calvin Chitwa, TV47, Uasin Gishu County.
All right, now, more of Tuskys supermarkets have signed terms of agreement with a Mauritius-based fund for the provision of a financing facility worth $2 billion. The firm has outstanding debt worth $6.2 billion owed to suppliers and creditors. Some have threatened to auction the retailer's assets to recover unpaid dues. Meanwhile, Tuskys Eldoret branch has been closed by auctioneers after they failed to pay 14 million shillings rent arrears. The auctioneers say that they had given them 14 days and, of course, they failed to commit to that. All right, now the Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee has ordered for a comprehensive forensic audit on the use of COVID-19 billions of shillings within 60 days. This comes as National Assembly House leadership promised that Parliament will put to task the relevant authorities to ensure that accountability on COVID-19 funds is gotten. Elizabeth Mutuku reports.
Speaking while opening the third National Assembly Leadership Retreat, Speaker Justin Muturi says that the Parliament will probe the graft at the Kenya Medical Supplies Agency, KEMSA.
Our committees are still working, and therefore you have seen even cabinet secretaries and other leaders of other bodies being invited to appear before committees. I'm avoiding the one summoned because it doesn't get to that. But they are invited to go to your committees. And just this week, I am very sure, if you check, you will find that the Public Investments Committee, while considering the audit of some of those organizations, will be dealing with them. And if there are issues that may arise, which could be of current nature, will be dealt with at the committee level.
House Speaker Justin Muturi has challenged oversight authorities EACC and DCI to investigate the KEMSA scandal without blaming Parliament for their failure.
Yeah, it's only requests and orders for either special audit or full audit, whatever. But ordinarily, those institutions do not require authority of Parliament because the laws that anchor them, indeed, the Auditor General's role is already in the Constitution. The EACC, they have enabling legislation. They don't require authority of Parliament. They can do it on their own motion. Yes.
Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee has ordered for a comprehensive forensic audit on the use of COVID-19 billions within 60 days. The committee, chaired by Uguncha MP Opiyo Wandayi, noted that only a forensic audit by the Auditor General can expose any impropriety of COVID-19 cash. National Assembly Majority Leader Amos Kimunya saying that the House will ensure that culprits are brought to book.
The ideal report of any inquiry or oversight initiative should include what legislative amendments are required to cure the problem that has been identified or prevent its recurrence in the future.
National Assembly Minority Leader and ODM Chairman John Mbadi now says categorically that ODM party won't defend and protect anyone who has been involved in looting the COVID-19 funds.
We didn't come out to defend Okoth Obado, the governor from Migori. We didn't come out to defend Ojamong. And ODM is not going to defend anyone. If, after investigation, and it is discovered that some of our members or any Kenyan is involved in the issues of KEMSA, and I want to be very candid there. If there are some Kenyans who decided to make themselves rich out of this, they are on their own.
Minority Leader John Mbadi says no member of Parliament should defend the executive on matters corruption. Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee estimates that government has received over 250 billion shillings for use in fight against the coronavirus pandemic.
Even as leaders and Kenyans continue to condemn the alleged misappropriation of COVID-19 funds, now all eyes are fixed on the relevant authorities to see whether justice is served. Elizabeth Mutuku, TV47 Nairobi.
Deputy President William Ruto is now accusing Right Honorable Raila Odinga-led ODM of sanitizing COVID-19 billionaires. The DP says that the Orange Party is practicing double-speak in the fight against corruption in the country. The ODM, however, in a rejoinder has, slammed at the DP, as David Muthoka now reports.
Deputy President William Ruto has criticized the opposition leader Raila Odinga, claiming that he is covering up for those behind the alleged theft at KEMSA. Ruto says the graft at KEMSA is a deplorable manifestation of the worst public vice that has seen the hypocritical former opposition characteristically change the tune.
The people who gave us long lectures about money in churches, about Christians and church leaders being business people, today they are stammering. Today they are staggering. They don't know what to say.
However, in a rejoinder, ODM is accusing Ruto of prosecuting issues on Twitter and other social media platforms. In a statement, ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna says, and I quote, "We know Mr. Ruto and audit are not the best of friends, but we do remember that when a fake arms scandal happened right in his office, he asked for proper investigations and labeled media stories nonsense." Sifuna further says that ODM has never and will never defend corruption at whatever level. Indeed, we imagine that if any member or leader of ODM was culpable in the KEMSA scandal, Ruto will be falling over himself to prevent such evidence to the public. End of quote. Ruto in his statement says that Raila is working overtime in an effort to sanitize the COVID billionaires.
From telling us take political responsibility, to telling us people must step aside, to telling us people must be taken to court. Now you are telling us, no, let's do a special audit. Things have really changed.
Ruto's sentiments come after Raila in a statement called for a special audit of the country's COVID-19 funds.
National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi has told members of the National Assembly to keep off the ongoing revenue sharing stalemate. Muturi says that Senate is capable of resolving the matter. However, the 12-member Senate committee is yet to get a consensus on the standoff, as Joash Onsari now reports.
The disputed third generation formula on county revenue allocation continues to attract reactions from leaders who want it solved soon. Treasury CS Ukuru Yatani, speaking to a local daily on Monday, said that Treasury has decided to ask Parliament to allow the national government to release 158 billion shillings to counties, which translates to half of the 316 billion shareable revenue, if the stalemate at the Senate over the revenue allocation to counties is not solved this week. The 12-member team is yet to agree on the way forward. The committee is said to be far from getting a solution or reaching a consensus this week. National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi, while addressing the third National Assembly retreat in Nairobi on Tuesday, called on MPs to cease from arguing on the county revenue standoff and let the Senate solve the stalemate.
Wait for it to come to your house. For the time being, I think you are just being Normans there, because you will have an opportunity to deal with it yourself in the National Assembly. So don't bother going to help anybody there. In fact, they don't even need your help at all. They are up to the task.
A section of members of the National Assembly have been accusing Senate to have failed to follow the Constitution in finding a solution in resolving the revenue formula standoff. Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, who is a member of the 12-member Senate committee, says he is optimistic of a solution from the committee. His sentiments were echoed by Nakuru Senator Susan Kihika, who is also a member of the committee. Senate is set to meet once the committee finds a solution to the stalemate. Joash Onsare, TV 47.
Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha now says that schools may be reopened before January next year. The statement now bringing more uncertainty on the reopening of schools, as Nano Clorin reports.
Speaking in Migori County while assessing the level of preparedness in the higher learning institutions in the county, Health Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has hinted that with the coming down of COVID-19 infections in the country, schools might reopen before January as earlier anticipated.
Because we are aware the virus is starting to look like it's going to stabilize. That is good news. And so we continue to to be sure that our children remain safe whenever they return. We had said, even for these colleges that were meant to open in September, and they open in January, but should the situation change, we shall be ready and willing to look at the scenario once again.
The move now appears to be puzzling parents and students even more, as the government had previously stated that schools could reopen in September before altering its stand to next year. Yesterday, CS Magoha hinted that students from TVET institutions will not return to school soon, a move that has cast doubt on many and put them at a crossroad. However, the Ministry of Health says discussions on school reopening not only need heavy consultation, but also protocols put in place.
Protocols have also to be developed if indeed that is to happen. And I can tell you that these discussions are ongoing. Hopefully we will be getting some direction or decision on what is going to be done, not only in the area of schools, but some of the other containment measures that are in place.
Kenyans are currently awaiting President Uhuru Kenyatta's speech this week to see if he will order the reopening of schools in the country. Nanok Lauren, TV 47.
Thanks, Nano, for that. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to address the nation any day from today, with many Kenyans grappling with questions of whether or not COVID-19 guidelines will be relaxed, as COVID-19 infections are seemingly going down. Zainab Mohammed with the details.
As Kenyans await the presidential address on the COVID-19 pandemic, things are seemingly different from the 27th of July, when the head of state extended most of the COVID-19 containment measures. The number of COVID-19 cases seemingly going down by the day. Of 24 hours, the number dropping significantly as of the 18th of this month to just 271 cases in a similar period. The country today recording 246 cases. And if the president's previous remarks are anything to go by, there are expectations of a relaxation in COVID-19 containment measures due to the sloping curve in the country. The Ministry of Health also signaling the expectations on the head of state's address in giving the direction to which the country will take.
Hopefully we will be getting some direction or decision on what is going to be done, not only in the area of schools, but some of the other containment measures that are in place. Remember that we are now approaching almost the 1 month extension of the curfew. So we expect that the head of state should be making a statement that will address some of these issues very shortly.
A total of 160 patients have recovered in the last 24 hours as 5 more people succumbed to the virus. Zainab Mohammed, TV 47.
And patients in Nairobi are already feeling the pinch of the doctor strike that has entered the 5th day, today marking the 6th one, with most patients forced to seek medical attention from other hospitals. The Kenya Medical Association has, however, maintained that the strike will continue until their demands are met. Eli Lugova with the details.
Health services in Nairobi County continue to be paralyzed for the 5th day running as doctors down their tools. The situation has left scores of patients wondering their next move. A spot check at some of the hospitals in the city shows the dire situation that many patients are going through. Most patients are forced to seek medical attention from private hospitals and dispensaries whose cost is not friendly to their pockets. At Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital in Kayole and Pumwani Maternity Hospital, new patients are not admitted since there are no doctors to attend to them. And for the ones who are admitted, relatives and close family members are not allowed to visit them. The Kenya Medical Association has maintained its stand on the doctor strike a day after meeting the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, a meeting that did not bear fruits. The doctors have tabled their grievances and want them implemented before resuming normal services in the city.
It's unfortunate that if that is not sorted out today, we shall be escalating the strike from tomorrow. We might possibly hit the streets. Hii ni mpaka mwisho. It's day 4 of many.
Eli Logova, TV47.
The promulgation of a new constitution in 2010 signaled a new dawn for the country. It brought with it a system overhaul that saw a new governance system put in place. 10 years on, however, public wage bills and spending have tremendously increased as a result as taxpayers continue to feel the strain. Our reporter David Muthoka reports on how the 2010 constitution has become a costly give and hand and take away for others' affair and for the people.
It was a fresh start for the country as the then President Mwai Kibaki led the nation at Uhuru Park to promulgate a new constitution on 27th August 2010. A sense of optimism swept across the country as 68.6% of Kenyans at the time overwhelmingly threw their weight behind the Yes campaign in a quest to bring on board the new constitution. But little thought was given to the financial implication that the constitution will have on the taxpayer. Even protests by opponents during the constitution-making process on the expenses that will be incurred in implementing the constitution seemed to fall on deaf ears. Parallel to the existing national government, the constitution paved the way to a devolved governance system. This created new positions, including 47 governors and their deputies, 67 senators, as well as women representatives. Similarly, more than 10 constitutional commissions and independent offices were introduced by the new constitution. Having more people on board was touted to improve service delivery on matters governance, but on the dark side, public coffers have had to grapple with the strain of sustaining the decade-old constitution. According to the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, governors pocket a monthly pay of 924,000 shillings, while their deputies receive 621,250 shillings. This means in a month, the exchequer coughs up to 43 million shillings as salaries for governors alone and 29 million shillings for their deputies. In a year, governors and their deputies receive well over 521 million shillings and 350 million shillings respectively as basic salaries alone, exclusive of allowances. Just like the county seconds in command, senators, women representatives and members of parliament earn 621,250 shillings a month, allowances notwithstanding. While the Senate has 67 members, the National Assembly has 349 members, an increase of 127 members from the previous 222. In 1 month, all the 67 senators receive a cumulative basic salary of approximately 41 million shillings. In a year, that totals to 500 million shillings. County executives who play the cabinet secretary role at county level earn 259,875 shillings each month. A dire public spending has been equally witnessed following the institutionalization of more institutional commissions and independent offices since 2010. Among the commissions introduced or strengthened by the 2010 Constitution include the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, National Land Commission, Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, Parliamentary Service Commission, Judicial Service Commission, and Commission on Revenue Allocation. Others are Public Service Commission, Salaries and Remuneration Commission, Teachers Service Commission, National Police Service Commission, and Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. On the other hand, the independent offices established include Office of the Auditor General, Controller of Budget and Independent Policing Oversight Authority IPOA. But constitutional pundits have maintained that the constitution has not been an expensive venture, as perceived, while pointing fingers at runaway plunder of resources in the country instead.
Today, we have about 7.1 trillion in external debt. 7 years, or rather 8 years, we've seen that debt grow like 5-6 times. So, and these are money that is being borrowed and is going to projects that are extra constitutional. We don't know where it is. It is not about, it's not going to devolution. It's not going to support institutions that are outlined in the constitution for the defense of the citizens and for the defense of good governance in this country. No, it is going to, it's basically being stolen. So the call, the saying that the constitution is expensive is a ruse. It's an excuse for people to propagate corruption.
While arguably the constitution has improved governance, the swelling wage bill is an Achilles heel that the government has had to grapple with. Ultimately, the burden has always fallen on Wanjiku amid talks of a constitutional referendum in the coming days. David Muthoka, TV47.
Exactly 30 minutes past the top of the hour. Time now that we take a short break. We'll be right back with a review of the newspapers.
Equip Africa College is a TVET institution accredited by the Ministry of Education and relevant professional regulatory bodies. The college, located in Kitale, is a center of excellence in healthcare training in the region. We have state-of-the-art training facilities, conducive learning environment, hostels, and highly qualified trainers. Apply now for diploma or certificate in nursing, clinical medicine, nutrition and dietetics, medical laboratory sciences, business management, procurement, marketing, and many more.
and thank you for choosing to stay with us. Before I loop you in on what is on the newspapers, the burial for a suspected Mungiki Central Region boss took less than 10 minutes after police chased away mourners in Murang'a County. Residents of Maragwan town had to watch from a distance as there was a heavy police presence surpassing the mourners.
The burial of Samuel Mwangi Njoki was marked by heavy presence of police. The main entry points of Maragwa town in Murang'a County were also barricaded with anti-riot police mounting roadblocks. Security officers camped at the area after allegations that an ex-supreme leader of Mungiki sect will visit the area to offer his message of condolences to the bereaved family. Until his demise, the late Samuel Mwangi was a businessman at Maragwa town. Last year, it is alleged that the deceased daughter, who died mysteriously, was buried by members touted to belong to an outlawed sect, a claim the family dismissed. Locals, however, criticized the police for denying them a chance to conduct a proper burial for a man they said they had grown to know and respect.
Ametulea tukiwa kama watoto yake. Kwanza mimi nilikuwa ananiita mama juu mimi nilikuwa naitwa kama msichana yake na nilikuwa ninamheshimu sana. Sasa kitu yenye imenistua ni Masisi. Sikuwa nimetarajia hivi, nimeona leo na hatumjui hivyo. Masisi hata hakutolewa kwa gari. Amechukuliwa akawekwa kwa nini? Si watu wao wanapea mtu the last respect kwa nini? Kuliko tena mtu akisema mambo ya mtu anafuatilia, anamjua vizuri. Ingine hiyo watu waduthi wakikuja emergency hata kuvuguswa kama ubwa.
According to Peter Murigi, chairman of Madhareni Residents Association, said they were angry that the burial was conducted in such haste, yet the deceased did not die from COVID-19.
Mazishi tukaambiwa ati mazishi ni watu 15, tukashindwa mazishi, si mtu amegonjeka COVID, si mtu amefanya nini, lakini hiyo kitu ya leo ilisemekana Mwangi alikuwa Mungeke. Na sisi kama watu wa Maragwa tunataka kujua wao walikuwa wanasema ni wa Mungeke ni akina nani. Mwangi alikuwa tunataka kujua Mwangi alikuwa kikundi gani. Mwangi alikuwa chairman wa wapi. Na sisi swali yetu tunataka heshima, na siku nyingine tukipatikana na watu kama hao tupatiwe heshima yetu, tupumzisha watu.
Nanok Lauren, TV47.
Now, one of the bodies of those who died at an accident at Kaburengu Trading Center along Eldoret-Webuye highways is yet to be identified. Micah Gungo reports.
It is a day after a road tragedy that claimed 8 lives at Kaburengu Trading Center in Kakamega County, while 17 others were left critically injured. Out of the 8 bodies that were received, one is yet to be identified.
Out of the 7 that received from the scene, those who died at the scene, we've been able to identify 6. So far we have one whom we are yet to identify.
At Webuye Referral Hospital, some of the victims have narrated their ordeal.
Hiyo lori ilikuwa speed sana. Sasa hata sisi tukaanza kuhangaika, tunashinda tuende upande gani, kwa sababu hiyo lori ilikuwa inakuja ikiumba yumba. Hata mimi mwenyewe sikukimbia. Hiyo lori ilipo ni face, niliona kitu kama kisa safari moja tu. Na nikaona tena mwangaza. Nikawa nimelala chini, mwenye nilikuwa naye tayari alikuwa amekongwa, ameshakufa.
Ilikuwa mwendo wa karibu saa 8 hivi. Sasa ndio nilikuwa nimefika kwa soko, nilikuwa napanga misiko yangu nianze kuuza. Sasa hiyo harakati nikasikia makelele. Wakati nilienuka hivi kuangalia, kumbe ni lori lose control. Na muda sio muda ilinifikia.
Ilikuwa nimekaa nilikuwa nachoma mahindi. Na nikaona tu trailer ilikuwa imetoka huko mbio. Harakati ya kukimbia na hii trailer ikanikonga. Kwa nimeketi hapo chini. Sasa kutoka hapa sikuwa nafahamu, nilichikuta kama nikapo.
They say the center has become a hotspot, urging Kakamega County government to relocate them. They have appealed to the government to intervene and help in paying hospital bills.
Sasa kwa tunaomba serikali kama inawezekana, kuna nafasi ambayo imepaki pale nyuma ya flyover. Ningeomba ya kwamba watu wote wa soko ya Kaburengu waende wawekwe pale mahali hiyo nafasi ambayo imebaki nyuma ya Kaburengu, nyuma ya flyover. Watu wote waingizwe kule ndani.
Kulingana vile nimeumia, sidhani kama nitakuwa kwa nafasi mzuri ya kutafuta vile nilikuwa nikitafuta hapo awali. Kwa hivyo naomba hapo serikali inisaidie.
Webuye Referral Hospital Medical Superintendent Simon Kisaka says the hospital received 14 victims and one of them succumbed while receiving treatment.
We received 14 casualties following the accident, and unfortunately we lost one in theatre. So currently we have 13 in the wards and they are stable. Out of the 13, 7 are male, 5 are female, out of which one of them is expectant, and both the mother and the child are doing well.
Reporting for TV47 from Webuye, Bungoma County, I'm Mike Kagwango.
Now let's briefly take a look at the main stories on the newspapers, and we have the People Daily, the Standard newspaper, and the Daily Nation. Let's start off with the Daily Nation. The front page has captured more of the same stories across the papers, and the big story: ex-Uhuru Raila men lead Ruto crack team. Deputy President William Ruto is banking on 2 former senators who sat in the International Coordination Committee on the National Super Alliance and a former cabinet secretary who was President Kenyatta's chief election agent in 2017 to show up his 2022 presidential campaign. There's a story that has been captured on page 8 of the Daily Nation, and you can see the key figures: Mr. Johnson Muthama, Dr. Boni Halwale, and Mr. Davis Chir, all of them so much so having been considered as allies of the Deputy President William Ruto, and outwardly coming out, to campaign for the DP. And the other day, of course, we're talking about matters Ukambani politics. We saw Johnston Mujdama and his former party leader, that is Kalonzo Musyoka, in a way sort of arguing to the political situation in the country. Johnson Muthama calling upon Kalonzo to join the Ruto bandwagon in what many have, or maybe in what Kalonzo looked at as more or less like, a demeaning statement, because according to him, he is not less of a human being and probably not less of a leader. His is a bid towards getting the 2022 slot on matters presidency. And yes, Boni Halwale out there always, posing as a DP ally and, coming out to confidently and strongly support the bid of the DP come 2022. So this story has been captured on page 8 as the team, Mr. Chirchir, a former Electoral Commission official, leads, is expected to come up with a manifesto and technical aspects of a 2022 campaign. We await to see what will happen in regards to the same. But that, of course, is not news because it's been the talk of the town, how most of the leaders have come out to talk on matters politics 2022. So the regional network's key to strategy and with plans to deploy grassroots mobilizers. That is what is expected in regards to their bid. We await to see, like I said, what will take center stage. Another story that has been captured on the front page is this story that, took center stage as of yesterday. Obado and his 4 children face arrest in theft case, captured on page 6 of the Daily Nation. They had to face arrest upon that declaration by the DCIDPB's office in regards to matters graft. It's a story that has been captured across all the papers, and you can always grab your copy of the Daily Nation and you get to see this story extensively on page 6. A developing story, and you can be rest assured that we'll be right here to update you on the same. Remember, the case has been ongoing and investigations have been conducted in regards to the same amid the numerous court battles that Obado faced. Amongst the charges, also that one of the murder of Sharon, that is a Rongo student, Rongo University student, and these developments on the same have taken a while, but eventually here we are, and we get to see whether indeed this is going to sail through. That aside, joy for families as World Health Organization says Africa is free of wild polio. Page 25 of the Daily Nation expounds the story. It's been a long journey towards ensuring that we declare Africa, polio-free. Most of the vaccines have been questioned. Most of the issues that have taken center stage, most of the children who probably did not take the vaccine vaccine, having, of course, gotten polio. And this, at this particular time, has been a global move. In most parts of the world, you realize that this has been addressed, but now Africa has been left behind for the longest of time. And then this declaration will indeed become a sigh of relief. So yes, developments of the same will be given unto you right here. Court slams brakes on community learning. Questions have been raised as to the aspect of community learning right here. And now the government's plans for resumption of learning in estates and villages following the closure of schools due to COVID-19 pandemic. That has suffered a setback yesterday after the High Court stopped the Ministry of Education from rolling out community-based learning following petition filed by parents. And this has been captured at the back page of the Daily Nation amid this talk or declaration yesterday by Magoha that there are likelihoods again, if this is the momentum that the COVID-19 cases will take, there are likelihoods that our children will go back to school before January comes, in what many have considered as lots of confusion within the education sector. But we wait to see what will happen in regards to the same amid this conversation of COVID-19. Coming to the front page of the Standard newspaper, and why you should not eat that school fees. Yes, most of the parents have pleaded guilty of feasting on or scavenging on the school fees, but as it is on a day of course learning resumption, on a day community-based learning was blocked. Yes, Magoha says that schools may reopen before January if COVID-19 numbers fall. That has been captured on page 6, exactly what it is that I have talked about from the front page of the Daily Nation. And Governor Obado and 4 children to be arrested, also a story that we've captured on, a developing one for that matter. And the DPP gives detectives green light to arrest Migori Governor King, his businesses, associates and staff of alleged embezzlement of 73.5 million from the county coffers. We'll be following up on that story to update you later. And Mombasa sends off its ex-mayor, that is Mwahima, who succumbed or who died. That is the day before yesterday at night. And many people have come to condole him as a calm person, as a community mobilizer, a person who's done well towards ensuring that there's that peace that is felt in Mombasa, and importantly that regional stability being felt. May his soul rest in eternal peace. And indeed we here at TV47 equally condole with the family. And coming to the front page of the People Daily, 2 more or less the same stories, and why learning could resume before January. I think we've captured that, also painting a picture of Katiba 10, most of us taking a look at the steps of the 2010 Constitution and whether indeed they've done justice to the common mwana inchi. And in what a story that has been captured by our very own David Muthoka paints a picture of how expensive the Katiba has been for the people. As we review on this, questions are lingering as to whether indeed we should proceed for a constitutional change or not. So we keep following up on this and update you accordingly. Another story that has been captured, CBK alert over new pyramid schemes. This should be, of course, of interest to you. Entities have styled themselves as online global network companies. One of the firms is Crowd1, which has received condemnation over its activities, and regulators issued warning because many transactions have moved online. Regulatory agencies are warning the public of the emergence of fraudulent finance forums that are taking advantage of COVID-19 situation to defraud Kenyans. You need to take caution of that. Captured on page 8 of the People Daily. And stay woke. Do not get involved if you're not certain of what exactly it is. Ruto Raila shielding COVID thieves. And this is according to Deputy President William Ruto's utterances. He says that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga and his ODM party are not genuine in dealing with the cases of cancer graft allegations and also the allegations that surround the public funds for COVID-19. He says that it is pretty much unfortunate to note that the ODM leader is calling upon the government to proceed and, conduct audit before, or rather than coming out outright to point fingers at the people who've been mentioned, have been named on the same. According to him, there are likelihoods that indeed there are people who were allies to the former premier that could have been a part and parcel of the fleecing of these monies of COVID-19 that we are talking about. There is so much so, and we're not going to delve deep into that. I think on that note, we'll get to wind up on this session of the newspaper review, as we have prepared a session for breakfast for you this morning, just so we give you the tips of a great breakfast. Simple tips that will get you having the best of breakfast, enjoying the moment, on a very low budget, but equally amazing breakfast. You've got no reason whatsoever to miss out on this. So up next, the breakfast tips of the week.
Good morning, this is Wesley of Ritoke Plate. Welcome to Morning Cafe. I'll be your chef today and I'll be doing crepes for breakfast. Today we'll be using 2 cups of flour, 2 eggs, vanilla extract, 1.5 cups of sugar, and 1 liter of milk. I'll blend my ingredients. I'll put my flour first. Let's do with dry ingredients first. Sasa tutaweka kikombe moja na nusu ya sukari. Tutaweka vanilla extract kiasi yake. This is a tablespoon. Then I will put my eggs and tunashake tuone kama iko fine. It's not yet ready. Tunaangalia kama butter ina run, it's smooth. So now tunaanza kuprepare. Nataka ku make sure iko dry kabisa ndio niweke mafuta. So ukipika crepe unaweza tumia mafuta ama butter. I advise butter, but leo tunatumia oil. Nitatumia hii mafuta, unaweka kidogo. You spread it on your pan. So juu nataka zitoshane, nitakuwa natumia hii cup kupima hii butter yangu. I'll make sure they're equal. One cup of butter. So ukiona itoshi, depending with the size of your crepe or pancake as you know it. Naweza ongeza half a cup ndio itoshe kwa pan vizuri. So I'm spreading it ndio ikue round vile nataka. That is our first. So itatoa around 5 pancakes. Thank you so much for being with me during this show. This is the final product. How do you think? How does it look? I've been a chef, Wesley of Ritoke's Plate, and till next time, see you soon.
welcome back to the session. It is time for that current affairs segment as we take a look at the current stories that have been taking center stage and expound some more on a comprehensive look and equally on an expert view. Betty Adera, who's the Kanu Women Congress chair that is in Nairobi, and Charles Munyui, who's a governance expert, join me this morning as we get to hear their sentiments or also their take on the note or on the topics that we'll have picked this morning. We take a look at different issues, especially the cancer saga that is ongoing in the country, even as we continue to deal with COVID-19. And come to you direct, the guest of the day. Good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for finding time.
Always a pleasure.
Betty, how are you?
I'm fine, and coming on live in Mombasa. Much needed rest, and I'm so honored to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
nice
pleasure. Thank you so much. Also, mtu anasema ukienda Mombasa, you probably would have decided to block us, but here you are with us, and we're grateful.
Thank you.
Right. So I'll start with a very cranky note, or so to speak. And I was just reading a statement by one of the people in a group that I'm in, a WhatsApp group, and they're like, we talked about this, COVID-19 cases of, graft, that there were likelihood to play out even before it happened. And then came that conversation on, just a month or two while we're dealing with it, on how the Ministry of Health has been using these funds. And then it was just brushed under the carpet, and not so much was questioned in regards to the same. And here we are today. We're talking about a huge amounts of money being lost, huge stuff, in terms of PPEs and, donations that have come from abroad, not being accounted for. So this person was saying, initially the numbers were very small, and then somewhere in between the numbers surged. And of course, probably that's when the graft activities were taking center stage. And then before we know it, the numbers are going down. Probably a way of trying to say that, maybe we might not even need this money, and also disguising us or getting a way to distract us from the main issue that is at hand, the cancer scandals that are there, or the talk of graft on COVID-19 funds that is there. What do you make of it, Betty?
Thank you very much, Linda, for that. And the fight against graft, in my view, should currently be at its highest peak, because we are at our lowest point as a people in Kenya, fighting a pandemic. And in many cases, you want to say that then Wanjiku was right, when right from the beginning, people were questioning this particular disease in the first place. Right at the beginning, people got horrified, to the news of tea and mandazi, that cost billions of shillings very, very early in this particular pandemic in Kenya. At some point, people criticized Tanzania, but look at where they are and where we are. And I'm just thinking that KEMSA, in my view, has come up as the weakest link in the fight to contain COVID-19 in Kenya. And this is what the people are saying, that why are you forcing us to wear masks? While wearing masks is just enabling somebody else to become richer and richer in their personal pockets. People are questioning whether this disease is actually even there. People are questioning the numbers. People are questioning, correlating exactly from the way you say it from your WhatsApp group. How come suddenly when questions are being asked, the numbers have suddenly gone down? What really is going on? And there's nothing as bad as fighting a pandemic among a people who are apathetic, among a people who have lost faith, in those who are responsible for taking care of them. If you ask me, any money stolen, any COVID money stolen, means that a nurse somewhere, a doctor somewhere will lose their life. It means that a child somewhere, a woman somewhere, a youth somewhere is going to lose their life. It means that young people will continue to wallow in poverty. Yet if you hear the amounts that have been stolen, then those were amounts that were more than enough to contain this virus, to feed people, to ensure that our young people are not, falling out of the way because of no jobs, no opportunities, and we would not see people dying of depression just because their landlords are on their necks. When it comes to the fight against corruption, I take this battle back to the head of state, where the leadership really sits. The head of state with his coalition partners, and KANU being one of them, want to, come out. They ought to come out and now just call a spade, and actually put people to account. This is completely unacceptable.
All right, and yes, indeed, everyone is agreeing to the fact that this is unacceptable. I would want to focus on the utterances of Deputy President William Ruto, and not just him, but other leaders, especially those ones allied to Tanga or allied to him, who is the DP, in regards to the fact that there's been hypocrisy on the approach of this particular case in comparison to the approach of the cases that have been there. Do you support what Right Honorable Raila Odinga and his party are fronting is probably a way of trying to sanitize the few individuals that are supposed to be held culpable of the loss of this money, Charles?
I think Kenyans amaze me because when we hear there's a problem with KEMSA, we act as if we are disappointed, we are surprised. How can you be surprised when there's money around and there are thieves out there? It's not like it's something new with us. This is something that we knew. People started talking about it even before it happened. And I think what Kenyans must now get accustomed to is due process when it comes to criminal processes and procurement processes. Because I think there is a lot of ignorance on the part of our people again on some of these issues. And I'm saying this with a lot of respect. For example, I don't understand why the leadership at the top, especially Honorable Raila Odinga, Honorable William Samoei Ruto, are doing back and forth over this issue of COVID-19. I think what must always happen when you are serious in leadership is to talk about how can we resolve this issue. If money has been stolen, does it get sorted out by giving pressers and saying, I have not stolen, someone else has stolen this time. It's not someone associated to me, someone else has stolen. Let us do an audit, let us do this. We have organs in this country that are supposed to be dealing with this. Remember George Kinoti, DCI, a good guy. Did a lot of work on matters, economic crimes and corruption. What did Kenyans do? Led by the same leadership, they told him, no, cool down. Can you deal with pickpockets and stuff like that? Your work is not to deal with matters of corruption. Your work is not to deal with matters of economic crime. Your work is to deal with issues of small crime. You leave EACC to deal with this. And remember that there's something called MAT. Multi-agency team that is supposed to deal with all these matters and includes even NIS, KRA, Asset Recovery Authority, National Reporting Center. All these organizations are there, and DCI, of course, and Office of the DPP. There are so many organs that are involved in this kind of operation, this kind of thing. And when you excite Kenyans to the extent that they expect people to be shot on sight, which is not really the way it happens. As we speak, the CEO KEMSA stands suspended. The person in charge of procurement, I think, stands suspended. Yeah. And you realize a week ago, you guys covered the DPP coming up with guidelines on benchmarks on what he considers a matter that he can take before a court of law, so that the matter does not get, dismissed in the first instance. And I think the excitement around these issues needs to calm down a little bit. The leaders in this country need to tell Kenyans the truth, because they are playing politics with matters, with very, very serious matters. Nobody is denying the fact that there is a likelihood, knowing Kenyans, this money has been misappropriated. At minimum, things have been sold at twice the amount, the price, 3 times the price, and due process in terms of procurement was not followed. But is the solution really lying in 2 individuals holding every other Kenyan at ransom simply because they want to show each other who is more corrupt than the other one, who is less corrupt than the other one, who is supporting graft, who is not? All manner of ideas being floated on how we can resolve this for political expediency. I think that's not the way to go. The way to go is to allow, and I remember that the president himself at one point said, there's corruption in my office, right inside my office. So admission of situations of this nature is in reality tells us that actually these things do happen, and there's a likelihood they have happened. But to resolve them, if Parliament was serious, number one, would not have matters corruption taking 2 to 3 years. Would have matters corruption taking a year. support the judiciary so that they can be able to expedite matters of this nature. Number two, if Parliament was serious, the laws that are there, including the Evidence Act and all other statutes that are there that relate to this, would be made more helpful in terms of making sure you get the right results in courts of law. So I think, to me, everyone has a role to play, but the role, to tell you the truth, is not about shouting loudest.
All right. And
especially the politicians. Kenyans can shout, but politicians, the leaders, in fact, even people who are in government, smart in the middle of government, cannot be shouting when you're shouting. They're supposed to be giving a solution, real solutions. And
speaking of shouting, let's first of all take a look at, this is the side of the people as opposed to the side of the leaders, before we take a look at what some of them had to say. And Betty Adera, coming to you. The people are out there. In Mombasa, where you are, we've witnessed some of Kenyans, going onto the streets to demonstrate this, something that has been curtailed in a way by the forces. What do you make of such bold moves? And why is it that it's not always that all Kenyans or a majority of Kenyans will take this bold move towards getting answers to such issues?
Well, right now we are all in the COVID pandemic, and there are guidelines that have been put in place that govern, converging of people in places and in groups. So that is something that the people who needed to, go out and protest needed to think about and needed to consider. Now, here in Mombasa, from what I'm hearing from just community people, it's not any different from what I hear in Nairobi, where I am based. People are just apathetic, and they are saying, especially the young people, both male and female, that if no one is going to take the bull by its horns, we're going to go out in the streets, and we're going to protest, and we're going to make sure that the people, the leaders, the politicians, everyone who needs to hear that we as Kenyans, we as young people are hurting because of COVID, but even more importantly, because of the corruption, not only around COVID, but around everything else, in Kenya, will need to be heard. They're saying that they have sacked, they have condoned, they've listened, they've been patient, but their patience has actually run out. And people feel that now, corruption is not really new. This is not the first time it's happening, and in these kinds of magnitudes. But why the apathy is at its highest right now is that money that should keep people safe, money that will determine whether somebody lives or dies, is what has been stolen. So the concern really is that kwani hawa watu wa serikali hawana utu, like they don't have that human feeling that even if you must you steal this one? Of all the monies that are out there to be stolen, must you steal this one? And I'm just saying that, hearing from what people are saying, we are actually headed in the wrong direction, because what they are saying also is that then why should the burden to fight HIV only be pushed to the citizens when the resources that should follow keeping people safe is going a different direction? Why should you make me, suffocate wearing a mask everywhere? Why should I sanitize all the time? Because anyway, I'm being killed by my money being stolen. So hey, I just wait, and then if I have to die of COVID, let me die. But what that does to us as a people, it just shows us that there's a huge disconnect between the leaders and the led, especially with young people, on the front line. And this is a dangerous place that we are going. They want to take action into their hands, and I'm just scared at what that action might be.
And Sifuna spoke, and people thought that maybe those were his own words, but later on, Right Honorable Raila Odinga confirmed that also is his position, that there needs to be an audit before any move can be taken against individuals that are going to be labeled on these scandals. So in reaction to that, the DP had something to say equally. Let's listen into that, and we cross over and react to the same.
Mungu ni wajabu, kwa sababu the people who gave us long lectures about money in churches, about Christians and church leaders being business people, today they are stammering. Today they are staggering. They don't know what to say. They were telling us the other day, people to take political responsibility, people to resign, people to be taken to court. Today, they are telling us, no, wait. Let's wait with the investigations. First, let's do audit, professional audit. Gentlemen, my friends, your doublespeak is so loud and your double standards are so obvious and so glaring.
On the social media platforms, also a very lengthy post on his Facebook page expounding the same on that, painting a picture of what has been back then when he was accused of Matters corruption, and right here his allies were accused of having taken part in Matters corruption, and currently. I mean, I know I've asked this and I'll ask again. What do you make of these utterances? What do you make of this exchange, between our leaders at this crucial time when they're supposed to make answers or are supposed to address this, as Betty would say, Charles?
Let me first say the deputy president is part of the government. Mm-hmm. He is actually the second highest ranking individual in the government, in the national executive. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he has no business having that exchange with Raila Odinga, because it sounds like he's actually responding to what Raila's team has talked about. I think the deputy president should be busy telling us specifically, if it's a minister he wants to take responsibility, if it's a PS he wants to take responsibility, he should address himself to the government that he's serving. Because in all honesty, Raila is not in government. And if Raila's people are involved in one way or the other, I think the deputy president should sound them out. He should say specifically individuals A, B, C, D, and especially talk to the right organs of government so that this issue can be resolved. Mm-hmm. My concern, and you've heard Betty talking about it, and because we're on national television, let us remind our people to wear masks, to sanitize, keep that distance that is recommended. Because again, it is not wise to get sick because you're not happy. I think that would be an unfortunate. Mm-hmm. Having said that, William Ruto, and this is the reality, is smelling blood. Because he's been accused of all these manner of things. His friends have been fired from this position to the next position because of matters related to graft, proven or not. And now that the people who are at the forefront in terms of telling him and his people, especially his people, and even him, about the land at the airport, the hotels and all those things. Now that you've been telling me this, why don't you also take responsibility? Because you've been telling me to take responsibility, you've been telling my people to take responsibility. That is a good thing in private. But when it comes out to talk about a government that you are serving at the second highest level, then that is a disconnect right there, as far as I'm concerned. Because what should be admitted by him is that there's graft, there are individuals within government that are corrupt, and the government is dealing with them one way or the other. You cannot serve a government when you are out there acting like as if you are an outsider on matters of this nature. And I think, to me, what is important is to give solutions to Kenyans, unless it's for political expediency where you want to look like now you've been sanitized or other people have been sanitized or past criminal acts of this nature have been sanitized, simply because you've proven to Kenyans that all of us are corrupt, or at least a cross-section of all Kenyans that are at the top are corrupt, so don't be blaming this one or the other one. Then if you're not telling us this act of today sanitizes everything else, then what you should be telling Kenyans is that there is a problem with KEMSA, something has happened, but bigger still, some more is coming. And I'm disappointed with EACC again. How does EACC have the audacity to tell us through a newspaper, I am assuming that was their position, that they're going to be shocked at what is happening at KEMSA. Mm-hmm. I think these are the things that we're telling Kenyans, and they are wondering, so what? If you're telling me it's going to be shocking, what am I supposed to do? Mm-hmm. You're the one who is supposed to come up with all these things. Tell me, where were you? Because EACC in the first instance is supposed to even do curriculum, be talking to our kids so that they don't engage in crime. They get to understand that matters corruption are bad from day one, when they're in nursery school, when they're in primary school, when they're in secondary school. They should know these things. So does it not, again, say failure on your part? Because if your work is to shout loudest as to how huge this situation is and how shocking it's going to be to you, Kenyans, we're already shocked. Mm-hmm. We know. A lot of resources have gone that direction. And trust me, all of us are talking about corruption as the biggest problem. Look at 300 billion that we're arguing over, of the whole Senate of 67 individuals haggling back and forth over 10% of our national revenue, when more than that, twice as much, or even close to two times that amount goes into people's pockets through corrupt acts.
Yeah.
So what we are trying to say is this exchange between Raila Odinga and William Ruto is purely for political expediency, and you can take that to the bank. The issue on the fight against corruption is ultimately going to be sorted out. And remember, I have seen a matter that was investigated, highlighted by the media several months ago. I've seen the DPP has given the go-ahead for individuals to be arrested. And it looked like it's an open and shut case because there was a lot of evidence flying out in terms of benefits being credited to this person, the other person in banks. You know, to get a conviction in a court of law on matters of corruption, you need to follow due procedure. And you've seen matters being thrown out at very early stages in the process because procedure was not followed. In fact, accessing an individual's account, and you've seen again that, a DCI going, accessing an account, the courts, the judges say, no, you should not have done it this way. You should have first notified him that we want information about your account. We need it. That takes time. It takes a week, takes 2 weeks, takes a month. But the question is it being addressed? At the point where at minimum we understand, we appreciate individual A, company B is involved. What happens? Because in the first instance, we knew KEMSA was involved. So KEMSA bosses are out there. So what is the second level? And I think the people who are sleeping in the office of the government spokesman is dead asleep. And they should wake up, because this is information that should be in the public domain. They should be telling people the process, what is going on, why is everyone dead silent about these issues, or is it that something is being done, but it is being done in a procedural way so that this war is won? Because this war is not be won, trust me, on TV, on radio, on these things, between leaders. And I'm saying Kenyans must shout as loudest as they can. They must do everything it takes within the law. But the leaders, the top leaders that we have elected and others that we've given positions, must not tell us that we can only deal with this situation by way of shouting at each other.
And most of the leaders have reacted to the same. The CS for Matters Health at some point also saying that, he has no idea where, of course, these donations from JACMA have been channeled to, and has faced the House committees to expound some more on these cases of graft. Says that let's loop out the Ministry of Health from this. It is beyond them, but the conversation is still ongoing amid all these reactions that we're getting from different quarters. The donors, the likes of the United States Agency of International Development, that is USAID, and Global Fund, have threatened to withdraw the numerous billions of monies that they would have awarded Kenya in terms of donations so as to deal with COVID-19. When you look at this scenario, what does it paint? Is it reactionary to, again, the utterances that we witnessed from our leaders? Have we failed to address this in a mature, in a constitutional, in a legal way? Betty?
Linda, this is not the first time that development partners, such as the ones you have mentioned, have called Kenya out in terms of resource utilization and matters of integrity. I know by my own knowledge that there are instances where in the past they have withheld funds that are supposed to come in and help fight HIV and AIDS, especially TB, malaria, for instance, just because of the actions of a couple of people, in high government place. So once again, Kenya is being called out. Our reputation is on the line on a long-standing issue of corruption. And we just keep wondering that when will this ever stop? When will we ever, begin to hear, development partners speaking with confidence, about the partnerships that they have and the resources that they give to us as a people. Now, having said that, I think it's worthy to note that development partners come in to augment government efforts to serve its people. All right? They bring in resources financially, they bring in resources information, they bring in resources technical, they bring in resources, to build our own capacities to strengthen systems so that every other day we are better in terms of service delivery than we were yesterday. But the COVID graft case, once again has taken us back, so many years back, painting us in the wrong light. And what I just want to say that when all this happens, the person who really is suffering is just that Mama Mboga Mashinani, who needed, to be helped to access a service that would determine whether she lives with her child or she dies. So this is something that to me, I call out, the people concerned in high government. The CS for health cannot escape this matter. This is an issue within his docket. And what Kenyans want is leadership. What Kenyans want is the truth. What Kenyans want is to see that there is deliberate effort, high up there to fight corruption. That person who has stolen is known. It's never a secret. You can't steal these kinds of monies, in secret. It is known. Yeah. And if we see the deputy president, for instance, chest stamping and celebrating that he's not the only thief, then I'm thinking that, hey, where really are we going, as people? And I just want to, again, just call upon, the leadership of this country to act with precision, to act with urgency, and to act very, very decisively, no matter who you are, no matter which side, you are on. Corruption is corruption. The effects of corruption is the same, no matter who actually does it. But as Kenyans, we want to see solutions. We want to hear, actions and steps that are being done, to remedy what is going on and to see improvements, that would cause prevention of such, from happening in the days to come.
Speaking of improvements and this proposal that they should be presented to the Auditor General's office, which I suppose they've already taken up the matter. A new Auditor General in office, what does she face? What are the likelihoods that we're going to get a watertight case on this one, so that when it gets to the level of the courts, it's going to be easier to deliberate on? Because for the longest of time, the courts have been pointed fingers at as the missing link on matter corruption, and according to them, it is because they've not been provided for with watertight cases, with proper evidence to incriminate these individuals that we're talking about. Charles?
First and foremost, I think audit always happens. Government ministries are always audited. But if there is a situation of this nature where the Ministry of Health requires special audit, I think that should be encouraged. I think there is nothing wrong with that. But in terms of the issues at hand right now, because there are issues that are clear like day and night, I think nothing stops the police, the EACC, the DCI, and everyone else that is involved from investigating. Remember, the KEMSA board has already suspended individuals from that particular office. And when I am aware, I think the KEMSA team has also been summoned by the Senate, which is a House of Parliament. My take is the office of the DCI or the EACC are working on this issue of close collaboration with the office of the DPP. And to me, that is key for Kenyans, because an audit sounds like sanitizing. An audit sounds like a process that is just about a document, a report that will be subjected again to the DCI for proper execution and the ODPP. To me, the police, and I remember when Kinoti used to arrest people on Friday and Thursdays and all the manner of days. Kenyans were scared of crime. Kenyans, even at the very high level, including even some very serious officers, were scared of crime. What did we do? We told him, don't arrest these big, nice thieves on Fridays. Arrest them on Monday because they need to be in churches and with their families over the weekend. Arresting people on Fridays for small thieves that have stolen phones. And now we are crying. And it's the same Kenyans who are all over the place, social media, telling no, don't do it this way. These are important people. These are MPs. These are cabinet secretaries. And I think the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Remind people, even when we were going to nursery school, the reason as to why we became better people is because we knew God was watching. We were scared. We were totally scared of God because we knew He was all over the place, checking us out. So to me, the Kinoti needs to be encouraged to continue operating the way he was operating. Because to stop this kind of graft is in 3 or 4 phases. Number one, we must stop our kids from loving graft, appreciating that at 28 years you can be living in the biggest house ever and it's not an inheritance. You can be driving the biggest car at 27, all over the place, and you cannot show where you've gotten those resources from. And number two, we also need to ensure that even those people who are serving us do not get into graft, because it scares them that they can be jailed for 67 years, and when you get jailed for 67 years, your colleague that you are jailed with or is able to raise 800 million to pay a fine, and you cannot. So you are a clerk out there. But importantly, we need the institutions that are supposed to be dealing with this strengthened instead of weakened by politicians who have an interest in this, making noise about them every single day, and you're the appointing authority, because the office of the DP led in attacking the DCI's office. They were at the forefront, yet they are the appointing authority because you are part of the presidency. The DCI is an appointee of the presidency. So you cannot be the one, crucifying them instead of helping them to grow. And if Kinoti had continued with the trajectory that he had followed on matters of this nature, trust me, even if it was going to happen, it was going to happen, but in a reducing manner. Now it looks like the thugs have become comfortable. They are now regrouping, they are reorganizing, and when there's big money, it's very easy to corrupt even at the very top.
All right. And speaking of which, at this time, when we're talking of corruption, especially in this one or case of the health sector, health workers have hit day 6 of the strike, and they are crying of deplorable conditions, the fact that they're not even able to access the PPEs, the basics, and they are the frontline workers. Remember, the first times that we're dealing with COVID-19 on Wednesdays, we would come there, clap for them and celebrate them. We probably have forgotten that, and they continue to suffer. Some of them get COVID-19, some of them have lost their lives courtesy of this. And even worse, the few who are in quarantine are being subjected to a situation whereby they have to fend for their own bills as it stands right now. This is pretty much unfortunate. Somalia, in a way, has done something that probably many would not have expected, sentencing the health ministry boss, that is Abdullahi Hashi Ali, and of course 3 other officials to 18 years jail term because of fleecing or because of theft of COVID-19 funds. What precedence does it set for us as we get to wind up on this, Betty?
Well, that's the kind of resolution, Kenyans want to hear. Some action being taken on people who are responsible for taking away, from the taxpayer, for taking away funds that have been given by well-wishers out there, to fight graft. And remember, the COVID funds were not only received from outside the country. There were many Kenyans, in Kenya, business communities and so on, who also chipped into that particular kitty. And when we see continued industrial action, by health workers in this country, it only points to a couple of things. One, that dialogue has failed, right? Because you only take an industrial action if all else, fails. And I'm just wondering, in this day and age, and also within the COVID-19 pandemic, who is this who would not want to value the power and value, actually, of dialogue, to avert an industrial action? And at a time such as this, when all the health workers are actually needed, to be out there and take care of us whenever we are sick with anything else, but even more importantly, be with us as we fight recoveries and ensure recoveries from COVID-19. So for me, when you hear a health worker, a nurse saying, they don't have the PPEs, they work under deplorable conditions, they have not received, salary for X amount of months. They are also mothers, fathers, they have responsibilities, they have children to feed on one hand, and on another hand, you're hearing billions and billions, stolen and are sitting in the hands of just a few. Then I'm thinking that you ask yourself, are we all living in the same country, or some people are living in a different country from others? So for me, I just want to call upon the authorities, to get back to the drawing table, to have a conversation with the health workers. Why? For their own sake, but also for the sake of Kenyans who depend on this, whose lives depend on these health workers.
And now still on matters graft, and we are witnessing a shift of activities, not really a shift of activities, something that probably many would have expected. One would argue that it's long overdue. Well, but of course not in our capacity to say that, but in the capacity of the courts. And the Anti-Graft Agency has extended the corruption probe against beleaguered, that is Migori Governor Okoth Obado, and his alleged proxies beyond the Kenyan borders. This is a report that received yesterday, and that moved by the DCI and also the agencies of matters corruption, calling upon the arrest of Obado. long overdue, and what are the likelihoods that this is going to take a different, turn that is probably going to speak of the strides that we've made in dealing with corruption in the country, Charles?
I think that's also sort of like takes us back to the issue with Somalia. I think Kenyans must appreciate that we have a different way of dealing with crime in Kenya than in Somalia. Our constitution that Kenyans gave themselves, because they voted for it at the referendum as is, gave very clear rights to even people who were arrested. And I think if you look at the Bill of Rights and see the rights that are there, to the extent that even if you kill, as long as you're not a flight list, as long as you don't, you prove you will not interfere with witnesses and evidence, then you're home, to have your case heard and determined when you're out there. So I think, to me, we must never at any minute think that we can operate like Somalia. Number two, matters of this nature in this country take too long. It's not like other countries. We've seen cases that have taken years and years in this country, taking just a few months in the US, and getting concluded and determined in a positive way as far as the fight against crime is concerned. I think Kenya is a different country. We gave ourselves a constitution that is good and bad at the same time, and unfortunately, we never took time to understand it. So even when you have someone arrested on a very serious issue, the following day he's released on bail or bond, Kenyans want him shot on sight. And I think these are the issues that Kenyans need to understand and appreciate as politicians in parliament help us to resolve it by way of coming up with statutes that, tell Kenyans that crime is not a good thing, we are not encouraging it. In terms of the Obado and other issues, and I think this is the same situation. This is not a matter that started being investigated today. It's taken quite a while. And after the DCI investigates, or even EACC investigates, you are aware the file has to go to the office of the DPP for the DPP to approve whether this person is going to be taken to court. And they look at the evidence has been forwarded against the law and all these things, and they determine that now we are going to arrest this person so that we can arraign them in court. And I think that is what has happened. It's taken a while. People had even forgotten that there was an investigation of this nature. People have forgotten that there are many people again who have been arrested, and then, or rather, their houses have been the DCA has gotten to their houses, or the EACC gotten evidence, and they're working on it so that the file is again forwarded to the DPP. I think this process is a very good process, but Kenyans again have not understood it. And the reason as to why the DPP, the investigating offices are doing this is because they don't just want to arrest people. We want to arrest people and ensure that they get a conviction in court. But I think there's a silver lining again out there, because you remember there was a determination that the criminal aspect does not stop the civil process from happening, to the extent that if you have 100 million in your account that you cannot explain, then the Asset Recovery Authority, through a civil process, can actually get that 100 million and retain it, either by way of confiscating it or at least ensuring it's safe until the due process is followed. So I think this is information. That's why I'm saying the office of the government spokesman should wake up, because this information is out there, but who knows about it? Who knows the processes, so that Kenyans can relax and appreciate that the fight against graft is not a haphazard. It's not just guesswork. It is something that is organized. It's something that is that is structured in such a way that there is at the end there is success in terms of what needs to be achieved as an objective. To me, that office needs to wake up. Kenyans need to know what happens when these things happen, because you will be shocked at the number of people who believe the moment you are arrested and released on cash bail or bond, then that matter is finished. And it's true, it could be finished to the extent that people bribe their way, witnesses start getting compromised, a lot of things happen along the way. But bottom line, that process is there, it's provided for, that is what is supposed to happen, and ultimately you'll find if there's a matter. Remember even the Masai Mara, I think, University saga again. That one again is also been there has been an approval. And this is a matter that you remember when it broke, it's quite a while back. People had even forgotten that thing. And even that time, Kenyans were very excited when they heard about this situation, what had happened, how many had gone back and forth. They were very mad about this situation and they wanted someone shot, So again, it's a question of process. And in Kenya, it takes too long, if you ask me. It takes too long to do these things. It takes too long to even take people to court. Again, it takes too long to have that process hard and a determination given. So to me, those timelines are the things that we need to work on.
As I would say, it grinds slow. That is the process of justice. But Adera, do you suppose that this is a step towards the right direction, looking at all, the developments that we've gotten? Of course, the Masai Mara case has mentioned, the case of Obado as mentioned right there. And remember, of course, the likes of Obado still face many other charges that are pending. This is just specific to this 74.3 million shillings, in regards to the county's coffers.
Actually, this is the step in the right direction, and these are the kinds of progresses that needs to be clearly communicated to Kenyans. These are the kinds of progresses that Kenyans actually are hungry, to hear about, that actually, kumbe, something is actually happening. And I want to agree with my fellow panelist, Charles, when he says that it's happening all right, but it's taking too long, So I'm just thinking that a lot needs to happen in terms of expediting, some of these cases so that they don't fall out in the eyes of the people. And remember, Kenyans are also a powerful force. They can make all the noise, on Twitter until someone listens, until something actually happens. But again, we forget too fast. And when some of these, cases take too long, Kenyans forget, and when it is brought back, like the one for the Migori governor, people be like, oh, kumbe, it was still
there,
that was and remember, the longer the time it takes, the more the loopholes become, possible for interference, with evidence, for hiding things and all that. So I think, again, I want to agree with Charles that matters corruption should be expedited in a faster, expedited actually, and determinations done faster.
And now, speaking of pushing the issues of corruption as it stands, he brings along his children on the chopping board. He puts their heads on the chopping board. Same applies to his allies also, who've also looped in their families. I mean, what does it speak of the intelligence that these people sometimes use as they seek to conduct these issues of corruption? I mean, why is it always that a family member will always be looped along?
Because they are not that sharp, number one. Number two, they want to steal for themselves and their family, not even for the community or for the county. It is for themselves. And who is better to preserve your resources with than your own family member? So I think, to me, what usually happens is that when these people get elected or get to a position of power, be it appointed or elected, what they do, they use proxies. And the best proxy would be a relative, close relative at that, because you are guaranteed that money is, you've realized most of these, be they governors, be they CSs, be they that, you'll always find a relative in there somewhere, or at minimum a girlfriend or a boyfriend or something to that extent. So it is, again, there is a lot of entitlement, especially when it comes to governors. When you give them these positions, they believe now the county belongs to them, and they can put that money in their pockets and start operating like they deal with peanuts. Like give this one, give the other one, remain with everything else. And of course, use all these manner of companies for the resources, or for the cash to flow from this particular point to the next particular point by way of registering companies in your relatives' names. Bank accounts in your relatives' companies and their names, money literally being deposited into those accounts. And because it happened a while back, it became a little easier. I am sure as we grow, as when Kinoti started pushing them too much, they have grown wiser. And I think now they are no longer using relatives. You'll find they'll use a lot of other different individuals that are not related to them, but the same thing is happening. When it comes especially to procurement procedures, and I think these are things, that's why I'm saying Parliament needs to wake up. You'll find we did away with the procurement, the so-called the committees for procurement and all that. What we came up with an office that is key called the head of procurement, who gives professional opinion at the end of the process, to the extent that they can actually dismiss the best placed company and pick number 3 or number 4. So those guys that are procuring, they don't need to even watch the process. They just wait for that report, and they can influence that report and pick that company on the basis of that, give that contract or that tender to that particular company. I think Parliament needs to wake up, look at all these things, tell us how can we be able to resolve these issues preemptively, because waiting for something to happen, something wrong to happen, and then start crying. See, if we are the average Kenyan out there, me and Betty can cry out here. But if you're in a position of power, if you're an MP, whether a member of Senate, National Assembly, County Assembly, you can be able to help us so that we tighten these loose nuts so that people don't get opportunities to steal. Because when it gets to Kinoti will deal with the symptoms ultimately when things have already gone bad.
There's this irony.
Prevent it by having systems that are working. Yes.
Charles, there's the irony of the House that is being talked about, that the former members of Parliament say that the current crop has let down voters, but the leaders who are there currently say that their performance has been good. Betty, do you suppose that the parliamentarians, the houses, are doing enough towards addressing this, towards oversighting their roles of regulating issues, their roles of legislating issues as it stands?
Thank you, Linda. I would not go the direction of offering a blanket condemnation.
Yeah.
For all MPs and all senators. We've seen some gracious ones in both houses really articulating issues, really representing the people, bringing to the fore issues that actually touch Kenyans, issues that Kenyans really want to hear about. We've seen their performance in the various committees. And within even those committee, conversations, you can see whose heart is really, in the job that they were given by the people to do. And those hearts are just like, let me check in and get my allowance for the sitting, and then, just go away. But one thing I want to say is that this time round, heading towards 2022, Kenyans have actually been watching these people. Kenyans are checking. And on many places that I go, I keep hearing that, no, my MCA is not going back. My MP is not going back. My governor, my senator, my women rep, and all those are not going back. And I'm thinking it's a wake-up call, for them to ask themselves that, look, where did this rain start beating you? And 2022 is actually not far. Not unless you're not interested in, fighting for your seat again. But I want to believe that Kenyans generally do not have to wait for 5 years to put up with a crappy elected leader, in their specific area. There needs to be a plan and a strategy where if majority feel that it is 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line, we are not seeing any sign of progress from leader X, I think those conversations need to be done, because 5 years is also too long.
Yeah.
You're 15 years old and after 5 years you're 20. And after 5 years, you're heading towards 30, and if your future is being lost, your future is being thrown in the dustbin just by a crappy leader, you put in place. But I want to say that we need to emulate the great leaders within both houses, those whose hearts are actually in the job, whose hearts are there to demonstrate the true meaning, of service. There's a lot of good guys and women, in both houses, but there's also crappy ones. So I want to believe that we just need to call out, the crappy ones, but we also need to appreciate, the ones who are doing a good job and show an example getting to 2022.
Yeah, still on you, Betty, and the developments that we witnessed today on matters education, lots of issues happening, some bits of them getting us a little bit confused, painting a picture of a confused ministry as it stands. And today again, Magoha tells us that there are likelihoods that we would open schools before January in the event that the numbers continued going low, as we've witnessed in the recent days. And also talking at that point where we're talking about, community-based learning, he fires warnings to the teachers who would not take part into this and say that, if you are not going to take part of it, you're going to face the sack. And also the courts, upon that declaration by a parent or upon a case presented by a parent, declares that maybe we should have a hold on the community-based learning as it stands today. Where does this place our children? Where does it place us as parents? Should we celebrate that there are likelihoods that we'll go back to school before January, Betty?
Truth be told, Linda and Charles, our children are lost. Our girls are getting pregnant every single day. I'm not too sure, you know, the number of girls will go back, like to, you know, the girls' boarding schools, or they'll be empty. Even the boys, on the other hand, we are seeing them already getting into, you know, income generation just because of the situation as it demands. They're already getting into the matatus, they're already peddling water, they're already scoomering them cocotenis. And when I engage with them, especially in Nairobi, they keep telling me that, no, nishaguza pesa, I've already touched money, you know, and this is the path I want to take. So will they go back to school? That's something else. Now, in terms of engaging children at home, in homeschooling, since the schools were shut down following the COVID-19, that has been disaster. Parents do not know, you know, how to teach children. They are not teachers. And of course, you know, the online learning, the sessions that have come on TV, those have been very, very good efforts, but the extent to which they have been effective is something else. The extent to which all kids have been able, you know, to participate in them, given their various contexts, you know, it's something else. Now, when you talk about, you know, community learning, while I appreciate the fact that COVID is a strange situation, is a unique situation. We are all learning, you know, as we are moving forward. The kids have stayed at home for too long, and they need to be given, you know, some form of schooling. But is that schooling being done in a consistent way so that when schools will eventually open, all kids are on the same page and on the same platform? I don't think so. Now, community learning, to me, I see it as like a desperate, you know, effort to at least do something and to keep engaging kids. But you cannot threaten teachers because the teachers are not under you. Teachers are under TSC, the Teacher Service Commission. And are the teachers, I mean, what is the process for the teachers themselves to be able to engage in this kind of community learning? So I want to believe, really, Linda, that we all need to just provide solutions. We need to share with the Ministry of Education our thoughts on what can work, what cannot work. And I'm trying to think that because of the COVID-19, perhaps a one-size-fits-all does not work. Yeah. Can they think of different strategies for kids in the northeastern region, for kids in Nairobi, for kids in Kisumu, for kids in the coast, and for kids you know, and all that. So it has to be a differentiated type of approach as we wait for schools to open. And just lastly, on schools opening, I want to believe the CS for Education is also working closely with his health counterpart to determine when it would be safe, you know, for kids to go back to school. And the virus keeps changing, the numbers keeps changing. So on that one, I just want to urge as Kenyans to be patient and just wait for guidance on when schools will be safe to be open.
All right. Yes, Charles, coming to you on all these differences, discrepancies, you know, all this double speak that we witnessed today. I know it's a confusing affair across the global fraternity, but don't you think this one in the country is getting a little bit higher or a notch higher?
I think the CS Education, with a lot of respect, must stop competing with the Minister for Health in terms of daily updates. And because I think that's a problem. You cannot update daily on matters of education. And I have seen him on television literally every day, saying this on matters of education, giving these dates, the other dates. And even the president himself is waiting for advice from professionals and experts on this issue, because like Betty has said, this is a new phenomenon. This is something we have never experienced before. Not just as a country, as a world, we have not experienced anything like this. And if you look out there, even the rest of the developed countries that rely on, say, football in the UK, Spain, and all the other places, the stadiums are still empty. They're not making money out of that. Their kids sometimes go back to school and then they're told, no, drop it, go back home because the spike has gone up. I think Kenya is not different. We cannot allow a situation whereby kids start going to school, whatever manner of school, whatever you want to call it, be it community or whatever it is that you want to call it, without clear guidelines on how that happened and how it's executed. Because again, how does that play? It's supposing a community does not have the teaching staff around there, And do you now import someone else from a different community? Because we know teachers that travel distance to go to the schools. I think this needs to be worked on better. I think we need to be patient and declare. I remember when we used to go to the university a while back, ourselves especially, we used to wait for a year. We clear school and then wait for a whole year before we join university. And it's not like we forgot what we had learned earlier. We still continue with the education. It's only that you need to be prepared psychologically that this is not happening. I remember when the minister said earlier, a while back, that there'll be no schooling until maybe January. Parents started settling down to that reality that maybe this is what needs to happen. What should have followed therein is a process of other professionals guiding parents through media through even physical contact on how to relate with their kids at a time when they are at home, when they are not supposed to be at home. Those are the issues. The issues my sister Betty is talking about on matters of even young girls engaging in all manner of vices and even being taken advantage of by defilers. I think that's again an issue that needs to be dealt with. Every time I hear there are 200 girls that have been defiled, I'm expecting to see at least 108 defilers before a court or something to that effect. Because this is not a matter you negotiate about. We need to see activity and reactions and actions around these issues because we need again to protect these kids. But we don't protect them by lumping them in some compound and acting like we are teaching them at the expense of a possibility of them getting infected with this matter of illness. I remember, if kids get sick, they take that sickness back home. And even those parents and other kids that are at home will get affected. This can become worse. Much as the curve has been controlled, there is no guarantee that you cannot be reinfected. So even one person getting sick, we can infect and reinfect a lot of other people, and it becomes complicated for all of us. So I think to me, the CS needs to sit back, like Betty has said, consult widely, and whatever it is they come up with, it should be something acceptable to parents. It should be something acceptable to the teachers themselves because they're stakeholders and you cannot force them. Like I said, we have a constitution that gives a lot of leeway for people to go to court if their rights is being played games with, and they'll get orders where they trust. And you can see it's happening. And that is not the right way to go because it would look like there are people who are interested in education, there are people who are not interested in education. Who has more interest in the education of their kids? It's not really the minister, it's a parent. Parents want their kids to be in school. It's that simple. It's only that we were told, and that position still stands, that this disease is not a small disease. It's a disease you should be careful of. This is a disease that should really scare you. So every parent is operating from that premise. And to change that, you need to assure them that figures have gone down tremendously. And to them, education for their kids, I think right now is secondary, if you ask me.
Okay, well, and lastly, as we draw upon that one and await the developments of the same, we are 10 years into the current constitution. We have about 7 minutes or so to wind up on this conversation. I'd love to hear your take on how far we've come, on how solid this constitution stands, or whether indeed there's that need for us to proceed and make changes on the current constitution, focus on matters, economy, representation, and devolution at large. Betty.
Thank you very much. Yes, the constitution that was promulgated in 2010 is almost hitting 10 years, and 10 years is enough time, for us as a people to go back and look at it and determine whether we want to continue keeping it that way or there are sections of it, that we want to have a conversation around. Remember, even as it was promulgated in 2010, it is not that everyone agreed with everything 100%, that was put in there. But people agreed with the majority of the things that people agreed with are the ones that were put in there and were passed, and they're still pending, issues that as a people we need to have a conversation around. For instance, the fight against corruption we need to have a completely different, conversation around that, while the Constitution provides, for sections in it that would handle integrity type of issues. Are those enough, or should it be tightened even further or made stricter, should it be made stricter within the Constitution? Secondly, we still continue to have divisive elections, as we keep seeing every other 5 years, even within the new Constitution. We still have issues around in inclusion an equitable, distribution of resources. We have been treated to enough drama, from the Senate regarding the resource allocation and division. And so, to my view, I want to believe that yes, there are things that we need to look at. Yes, there are things we need to go back to, and there are also new things that we need to bring in there, that will cause us to be able to even strengthen, our systems, that then would ensure that corruption is actually dealt with decisively and as a matter of urgency, and also for expansion of economy, so that our young people, have opportunities to be engaged meaningfully, and also to get into gainful employment opportunities.
Coming to you, Charles, on the same.
First and foremost, Article 255, 256, 257 are about amending the Constitution. So the Constitution appreciates that it also needs to give that leeway to be amended. So those provisions are there. And it's not like we're now just deciding we need to amend the Constitution.
It's a bit of a hiccup right there. Charles, can you hear me? All right, yes, right on time, I'd say, though having not had the take of Charles in regards to the current constitution, but we are exactly at 4 minutes past 8 a.m. in the morning, where we get to wind up this session of Current Affairs segment, and those were candid discussions revolving around the issues that are crucial to us, matters grafting the country and reopening of schools, and whether indeed there is that need for us to look deeper into the discrepancies that we witnessed today on the education sector. And lastly, just taking a preview of what the Constitution, or the 2010 Constitution, has been for us as a people. So on that very note, let's get to wind up this session as we cross over to a different session altogether. Like we promised yesterday, it is now time that we have a Matters Lifestyle segment, and it's that subject that we were to touch on yesterday with regards to entanglements or situationships, where you find yourself in a relationship probably just because of the situation, and we ask pertinent questions as to whether it is healthy, whether it is good, what advantages come along with that, or what disadvantages come along with the same. Nancy Rehab, who's a psychologist, joins me this morning to expound some more on that. So after this break, we'll be right back. Keep talking to us, sending in those messages, and we'll get to sample them as we proceed with the broadcast. have been yesterday's conversation, but we pushed it to today. But it is timely, especially at this time when people are battling with COVID-19. I'm imagining the students, the people who've been forced to be away from their loved ones, and probably they cannot be able to stay away from, at least having someone who can keep them warm, keep them happy and everything. So they end up engaging in situationships, entanglements with anyone who's around them. I am saying this while smiling. One would look at it as though it's a good thing. I do not know whether it's good or not, but I have specialists on board who are going to tell us whether situationships, or so to speak, entanglements, have a difference and whether they are good, especially, when time calls for that. So yes, the conversation this morning is about situationships. It's a relationship session right here on Morning Cafe. Welcome on board, and we'd love to hear your take on this. Have you ever found yourself in such a scenario? If not, well, who knows, maybe tomorrow you'd be there. How do you get to handle this? Rahab Nancy, who's a psychologist, joins us this morning, and Alan Lawrence too. Alan Lawrence, a psychologist, life coach. What is the difference between the two, by the way?
There is a slight difference.
A slight difference, but it's more or less the same thing, isn't it? All right, so yes, they're specialists in this line, and they tell us whether indeed situationships are good or not. Yesterday, I wanted them to start with their experiences, and I'm glad they are here physically. Alan Lawrence, ushaijipata hapo, where majina zenyu though, Alan Lawrence, Nancy Rahab. Interesting. Okay, so ushaijikuta hapo mahali, decide sasa hii situationship. I mean, usitetemeke, we are grown up enough, and we can speak.
Yeah. I've ever found myself in the situationship whereby circumstances nakufanya like you just have to. For example, when I was heartbroken, so I had to like revenge, get into a situation.
A rebound.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you may share to hapo hivyo. You know what the argument on ground is? That guys love situationships sana. That one you will defend later, that one you will confirm later. Yeah. But I should have started by introducing you first, ladies first. But I thought, well, this is not a subject you want to be introduced first on. So Nancy,
ladies first, men before.
Have you ever been there?
I think these are things you do when you're young. Yeah. But exactly. For women, they like a more defined kind of relationship where you can know what you're committing to. Not like when you're with someone and you're really not sure what it's, or you can't even define it. Yes.
So just what exactly is a situationship or an entanglement, now that we say, is something that you probably are not able to define?
This is actually a relationship where there are no boundaries, you cannot define it, you don't know who you are to this person, and they call you when they want something, or you call them when you want something, but definitely there is an agenda each of you drives, and you can't really say who is heading or who is following. It's just confused. Right. Yes, a lot of compromises.
In most cases, what is the involvement? What is the agreement? Is it a scenario ile mnakaa chini unaambiana mimi situation yangu ni hii, yako ni hii, tuingie, ama there are times that you'd find one party is probably willing to commit, but the other is like, what, like you say, I am heartbroken, I think it's just a question of hurting the other. So is it bad or is it good?
It is bad because, number one, if there is no purpose for this relationship, then you are not dating for a purpose. You are dating for leisure, and I always tell people, if you are just dating for a hobby or for a leisure, you better find a hobby to do other than playing with somebody's heart, because somebody's heart is not a ball. Whereby now you've not defined the purpose of the relationship, and the other party doesn't know the purpose of the relationship. So you enter into this relationship with undivided expectations. Another person has an expectation of commitment, but you yourself, you have a different expectation. So you have unrealistic expectations into the relationship.
Now, speaking of which, then one would want to argue, okay, well, there are times in labda mmekaa chini mkagree, and there are moments in one is looking at this as a situationship, the other is looking at it as something that would crop up to be something good. So how then do you get to know that you are in a situationship, that these are telltale signs, like you're thinking you have gotten the man, kumbe it is not?
First of all, you need to know this person you're with, do they even listen to you, or they call you when they want something? Are they obsessive? are they people who are unrealistic, you can't even reason with, or you just find them when they want something from you? So those are some of the telltale signs that are telling you you're in a situationship. Yes.
All right. He says it's not good, but there are times when, you know, two adults sit down and agree that this is what we want. Maybe things are not working well in my other side or in my home, and same applies to you. So how about you have something, you know, that is going to keep us going, and you know, it's an agreement that probably works for the two of you.
I wouldn't use the word bad. I would say it's unhealthy, but if you know that you're getting into this situationship as it is, not that you have expectations that are not defined, I think knowing that and you going into it really with clear, you know, goals, I think that would work. But then again, it's also, you can easily go into depression, because once you bond with someone, once you have sex with someone, you release some hormones, and these hormones like oxytocin, it's a bonding hormone, and once you release that, you expect to bond with this person, and if that's not the expectation, then you're bound to get into depression.
All right, so in this case, we're saying that emotionals could crop up, or emotional connections could crop up, trappings could crop up. In a scenario where, you know, it started as an entanglement or a situationship, and boom, here you are. So in such a scenario, how do you balance this?
You know, first of all, you need to understand, like, let me pick from the side of a lady now. A man has approached you, and this man, you are seeing some signs of situationship, whereby this man, you know, during the day he speaks in soprano, but at night he will call you in bass, you know, just only they want something to excite your flesh. So you will read you will have some red flags, whereby you will see that this person is only interested in my looks, because I always tell people, you know, sometimes you will be interested with the looks, with the hips and everything. You will start saying, oh, the hips don't lie. But after some time, they will lie.
They will lie,
So once the relationship, you have the purpose of this relationship, no matter what will happen, the purpose will be what will sustain, will be the fabric that will sustain the relationship. So now, in the case of situationship, how can one get out of it? First of all, can you sit down with this man? Like, if he's a man, sit down with this man. Don't be quick, like when a person tells you that, you know, I love you, don't be quick to respond, I love you too. Just ask them, what is the purpose? Like, what plan do you have? In my life, like, if you do not figure in like 3 months plan of his life, just know that is a situationship or an entanglement.
In most cases, people say that, well, this aspect of trying to figure out what this other person wants, sometimes has probably not worked. And, you know, it is always about you. Go back to your place and ask yourself, do you think, what is it that you want to achieve in 3 months? Like, you first coin your home before you get to incorporate somebody else. So in this case, how do you strike the balance? Is it about you first? Is it about you looking into what you want? Or it's about what it is that this other person wants? Because, well, they could want something that you probably don't.
First of all, you need to be healthy to be in a healthy relationship. Because you cannot offer what you don't have. As you said about rebound, you're hurting, you're looking for something, you know, it's like some refuge you're looking for that is not in this person. He didn't hurt you, he's innocent, you see. So you need to be very, very healthy in order to get into a healthy relationship. And being healthy is actually created by self-discovery and self-awareness. If you're not self-aware, you don't even know then what you want in a relationship. Yes.
Okay, so in this case then, it would not even work. So I'll ask the same question to you before we come to Alan again. When are there situations where you get to this point and you realize that actually this is more of a situationship, this is not headed anywhere? Or even if you had an agreement together and you say, you know, finally it's time that we end this, finally it's time that we go our ways, because, well, I was staying here and now I have to go back to my country and now we can no longer be, it was just a situation scenario and we have to let go. How do you how do you just come out of that, especially when you say that there are moments where emotional connections are experienced?
I think think first of all, you need to know where you are in any relationship, even with a colleague, with a friend. You really need to know where you are at, what to tell them, what to say to them. You know, there are people you'll just tell something and it sets them off in a bad way. So when you're relating with people, you need to know yourself, especially how you communicate. It is very, very key. And the other person, so that you always know where you stand with people. Now, in a relationship, definitely it's very healthy to know where you stand with someone. So if this is an expatriate, they are here for some time, we've read and heard about Mike Oliver and all this scandal, you know, and what do you want? And most of this is triggered by dating apps. You see, when you're dating physically, the first few dates, you set the terms. It's called the DTR, define the terms, you know. And you sit down, you get to know, can I date this person? Do I like how they talk? Can we do we have a certain vibe, you know? And if you don't like them, you walk away. But now in a dating app, you don't know this person. Maybe you're looking for a Mzungu and Mike Oliver is right there. And this happen, you see, because you know your expectations are totally different. So you end up in a relationship that is not healthy and is very short. It leaves you wounded, very, very wounded, that you can't even, you know, you get healing that is very, very, emotional wounds are hard to heal. Yes, so if you're ready for that, then it's your thing. If you're not, then you really have to think through who you're talking to, who you're dating. Even if it's in an app, you need to know this person before even you meet them. Because I've seen even in some cases where people meet people who are very dangerous. And you risk in your life. Yes.
Okay, well, I guess we jumped the gun. Maybe we should have started by asking, when is it that you let go? You've probably been with this person. I am yet to ask again, how long should these situationships last? I mean, for instance, you know, as a professional, when it goes to 2, 3, 4 years, you probably start thinking, now this ceases to be a situationship. This is toxic. This is good. This is probably going to lead to a relationship. At what point? First, we ask, when should they last? And at what point should you decide, it is time now that I need to let go?
Exactly. So, you know, like the most appropriate time for one to date, rather to do an interview for someone before you commit or you proceed for anything. You ask me, I'll tell you 6 months. Why? Because you've studied this person, you've understood his weakness, you've understood what triggers him and all those kind of things. So you got to understand before you relate with someone, try to do some background check with this person. Even if you met online, remember the goal is to date online but meet offline. Do not commit with a person online, especially when you are dating online. So you need to come back and understand why this person into me. What is the reason for them? So remember, this relationship is not a rescue mission for some people, because you get the situationships have been like rescue missions whereby a person has been hurt in another relationship, so they quickly jump into another relationship so that they can be healed. And I always tell myself that it is toxic to date someone who does not even value themselves, who does not love themselves. Like the way Rahab was saying, you know, a person cannot give you what they do not have. So look at this person, what is their love language? And another thing now, where it comes, you need to take care of what you get into the relationship, and what you get out of the relationship will take care of itself. In a point whereby, if I'm giving my whole into this relationship, I'm committed to ensure that this relationship is working. But the results I'm getting out of this relationship is not working. You don't need a prophetic eye to be able to be told that you need to exit. You just exit in a good way, do not bank doors.
Wait a minute, you mentioned something that I thought, okay, well, maybe is worth touching on. The fact that, you probably give yourself approximately 6 months to gauge. They have said, or specialists who have been in relationship for ages say that, you know what, you can never get to know this man. You can never get to know this woman. So is it a question of, kubahatisha, like everyone is bahatishaing on COVID-19 right now? Or really in about 6 months or so, you might be able to establish something that will be helpful?
At once you've evaluated this person, and you need to have a list of what you cannot handle. Because if you don't have that, even given 6 years, you will not know this person. So you need to have that gauge. Is this person this and that? You see, and no matter how long or how short the period, there are those things you must say that are a must have in a relationship. And if this person has, then fine, he's good to go. If he doesn't, or maybe there are some things you can compromise, that's all up to you. But first of all, you need to know your worth. If you don't know your worth, you can never have the right person.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
All right, that's amazing.
Just to add on what Rahab was saying, you know, like to gauge, you need to have the goals into this relationship. Like have a time frame. If this time frame is not met, you just have to drop it like it's hot.
Oh, okay. It could be very painful. So, when do they work? Do they ever work? Actually, someone will tell you, actually, before we knew it, we are husband and wife. Yes.
If there's an agreement, you all know the TORs, and you know this guy is going back home in 6 months, so this is it. So I need to have ABCD within the time given. I think it would, if you're okay with it. But first of all, ask yourself, are you feeling like you're in it as a whole person, or you're being used? Because if you feel like being used, then you'll end up getting hurt. Yes.
So in that scenario, are there possibilities of a transition where now it will come from that aspect where it's a situationship, and then you decide, by the way, why not? And I think I've heard someone saying that. Some of the key figures, public figures here, you know, will tell you, oh, we all started at the gym, and you know, she was going through this, I was going through this. Before we know it, we knew it, we're here. Before we know it, now we are married. Yes.
So there, you know, as I began earlier on saying, relationship or everything has the fabric of purpose. If your purpose can intermarry, first of all, that is now the best basis for you to, like, you can give it a shot and see how it works. But if your purpose is compromised, if this person is not helping you fulfill your purpose, then you better let each other go. That is not a relationship, it is a cage.
All right, so how do you get past it? Now you've decided it's okay, this is not a relationship, this is not working, I'm dropping it like it's hot. So how do you get over it, past it, without having this person also coming to bother you in as much as it was a situationship?
Basically, it all goes to communication. When you cut communication, there's no relationship. So if you reduce on communication, then it's a done deal. And if this person keeps following you, which usually happens because most are very obsessive, you have to know what to do if this happens. Yes.
All right. So in most cases, what are some of the things that you'd probably do? And you know, this is not applicable only on situationships. This is applicable even on relationships who are real and all. And you probably think, okay, it's time that we lock it out. Some of them will lock all communication, but you know, in a way, this person will find a way of getting to you. Sometimes you don't even know whether they're genuine in terms of wanting you back, or what probably they have a motive of hurting you. And probably that's where most of the crimes of passion have culminated from. So how do you just get to know, and how do you just manage to block them off totally?
You know, communication is better than accommodation, whereby once you get to hear what this person constantly tells you, once you get to communicate with this person, especially before even they vanish on you, you need to check some triggers. Even what they constantly say, there are some red flags you need to pick and be able to tell if this person is genuine. So I have like 3 sins that people mostly make, especially the young people. You get into this relationship, the first thing, you are having sex with this person. Remember, sex cannot keep a man. Sex is so cheap, they can get out there on the streets. So if you think that this person is like, you are trying to use sex to capture them, then you're on the wrong side. So how you entered into this relationship will determine how you're going to sustain this relationship. So you need to check if this person, you know, men, we are like hunters. The moment we hit it, that's when you are like your respectiveness decreases by approximately 90%. So you need to check, like.
So it's unfortunate. So it's a reality. But I just don't understand how it works that way. I just don't.
You know, like Linda, truth be told, when you're in a birthday party, once the cake is cut, what do you expect? Mwende. So the thing is, that is why men ghost on you, on ladies, because you are easy to to give them access to the Thailand.
I still do not understand. If I love you, and I've gotten all that is from you, I would still want to have you if I love you. That's just my thinking.
For men, we enjoy the chase.
Okay.
I've dated Lady X. I've slept with her, so I'll go to Lady Y. Again, so I enjoy the chase. That's why men take so much glory in dating ladies that we will end up chasing for a long time. We just enjoy the chase.
Is the card not shifting this time around? Because again, there's some of them who will tell you, by the way, uko ndani ama uko. Let's do it.
That is manipulative.
During our days, we could get this person chasing us for 2-3 years, and still eventually you end up with them. And now that's the beauty of it, that but nowadays it's like in 2 months to do kama tuko ama tuko.
And actually, the game is changing. Women are now the hunters.
Again, now is there anything wrong with that? Now that's one thing we want to ask. Is there anything wrong with that?
These things are happening, and you'll find that a lady is after a certain guy with a certain character, and they really go for it, And so I think men are losing the hunting beat.
Yeah, they are.
Yes, the independent girl is a hunter. But then again, they know what they want.
Yeah.
You'll find a woman who say, I want a child with so and so. I don't want him to father the child. I don't want him to co-parent. I want him to just give me his child, and that's it. And they cut connections after that. And this guy will be saying oh, my kid is so and so, and such things happen.
Right.
So I wouldn't say that men are still hard. Yes, the chase has there is a turnaround. But then again, for someone who knows their worth, they'll definitely know what they want from you, and they have to be very, very mature. Because if you're in a relationship with someone who's not mature, it will be a headache, and you'll end up getting very conflicted. Because you're trying to work, and someone is like, "Where are you? Are you sure you're in the studio?" It's quite something, and it's very damaging. And as I said, you have to be healthy to offer a healthy relationship. Because if someone is wounded, of course they'll come to hurt. They are not there to love. And be careful with people who are quick to say I love you. You have to know what you're loving, and you can't just say I love you, I miss you. What is love? You have to define love.
How do you miss me? And we've never even met, probably. I don't understand.
But also ladies need to understand, not every man who tells you I love you, they mean it. Other they're trying to learn
So how
English.
do you get to know that they mean it, man? They're trying to learn English.
Yeah, they're trying to learn English.
Okay, So how do you get to know? How do you just gauge that it's okay? And I mean, that also revolves around this conversation that we're having, because sometimes you get into it, you are thinking it's love, like we had started by saying, but in real sense, actually, it's just something else. So how do you get to know?
But in this country, we don't have entanglement, we have tangatangament. So you have whereby people are just trying to prove a point, whereby we want just to have a sense of belonging, whereby I'm dating this person. So in real sense, I'm not loving this person. I'm just loving what they offer, what they are becoming, because I've captured wind of so and so is becoming so and so. So I will try to be able to come around her, so that I have that sense of belonging. I'm dating so and so. So how you run out of that relationship is you have to check some red flags, and the red flags are like, if this man every now and then when we meet, he's only talking of bed gymnastics, So this person is not worth to commit into this relationship, because a true relationship, I always teach that you need to have the PAL test, whereby does this person understand my purpose in life? Does this person understand my passion? Does this person can be able to understand and accommodate my attitude? Does he know my losing points? Does he know, all those kind of things? If you can be able to run all those kind of things, then if they fit in there, give it a shot.
Sometimes they get to that point where they are toxic. And toxicity, in most cases, some people will not even know that this is toxicity. They're just there. Something is happening. It would seem comfortable, our old mamas would say, as poku slap, then you know that they do not love you. That's just something that I've never agreed to. Some of them will tell you, what, you have to pick a magoti, you have to act like a slave, and to you that feels like you're submitting, you're being a woman. So when you are not able to know that this is toxicity, what happens? Or how do you get to know that, okay, well, this is now getting from that point whereby it ceases even to be a situationship, it ceases even to be a relationship, it is toxic for me?
Yeah. First of all, as I said, when you know your worth, you know what is not working for you. Like even the way someone is talking to, emotional abuse is actually worse than physical abuse. The way someone talks at you, the way they cut communication and disappear, but when they want sex, they are there. They are, looking all glammed up, you know. You need to know, how do you feel when someone reaches out? Eh? When I call you Linda, what feeling am I leaving behind? Because if you start asking yourself, what was that? Then it's not really working, Or someone calls you and say, I have booked this room there, this and this place. Avail yourself. How would you feel? Now that's toxic. That's how you start. When you start questioning yourself, why am I here? Because even if this person is, let's say, just bought you a car, you have to know he can repossess it on the highway when you're going to work. It's possible. It has happened. You've read about that. So it's not really like giving you happiness, because fulfillment is very important in a relationship. And once you don't have fulfillment, you end up getting anxieties. You're wondering, when will he call me? When will he slap me? When will, and all those other things. And it's not healthy. And you're worth far much better things. If you give yourself time to even heal, you'll know what you want and who can offer that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Alan, now it is your time to tell us, why is it that it's always guys that are considered to be so much for these agreements of situationships?
First of all, you need to check if this person, 3 aspects. Are they matured psychologically? Are they matured economically? Are they matured physically? So if you check on those kind of things, like let's say economically, number one thing as a man, once you enter into a relationship, before even you think of a relationship, remember you are there to provide security. You are there to provide. You are there as a man. Even if your girl works and does everything, try to be there as a man. That is where now this lady will respect you. Ladies want this a point whereby even if I'm earning more than you, but at least you are there to play a role as a man. So men, most of the time, we tend to date ladies as a way, like those guys who enter into entanglement and situationship. So at times they will get like, these issues, mama waharia, those kind of things. So they are there not because they love the person. They are there because what this person can offer. How can I manipulate this person and be able to get what I want? So also psychologically, you get a man, because they are hurting, they enter into a relationship with another person so that they can feel like they are secure, so that they can feel a sense of belonging. You get other men, like they will enter into this relationship because they are not mature enough. They're trying to have a sense of belonging because their peers are dating, so they want to enter into this so that to prove a point. So that is why, to some extent, men, we find ourselves into this entanglement and situationship.
Do they fear commitment?
I think they do.
Yeah, true.
They're not even looking for commitment, let alone fearing. It's an adventure.
Okay.
This is so and so, and the more popular, the merrier, And I've seen videos of very popular men posting about a relationship, and I was wondering, does this person, is he even aware of how wounded he is? Because of the way they are talking about women and trashing everything, and that could be your sister, that could be, someone that you really care about. And it's really like heartbreaking to actually see influential people talk about relationship and like that. Like women are items or trophies or something like that. But a real man, I would say, knows what they want. And no matter how much women flaunt themselves in front of this man, he knows that I have this lady. When I go, I can be vulnerable with her. I can be my own person. I can remove my clothes, those popular, whatever they, that I post or I work with, and just be myself. And in most cases, most of the time they want to divert from that and seek the adventure. And that's where now the situationships happen. Yes.
What are some of these scenarios of a situationship or types of situationships that, you know, you'd notably point at? Are you married? No. You probably would not know that one on the line of marriage. But yes, tell us what it is that is, you know.
At times, a situationship whereby you get a person, like they are so much excited about like, for instance, men, they are so much excited about this man because of their physique and everything. So you find themselves like engaging into a relationship, not even a relationship, into a sexual relationship with that person, and that's why they'll end up ghosting on them. Like yesterday, I received a text from someone, and this is a daughter. So she was trying to fix her mother's phone. Then she found out that the mother was cheating on the dad with another man. So you get to understand that this situationship, because I try to analyze the situation, you find out that because of the economic situations, you find this lady had to engage with another man so that she can sustain the family. So at times these situationships, we will judge people on what they did, but remember, in the first place, we were not there to see the options they had at first. I know it's not healthy, but if you sit back with these people and get to understand why they did this, you will be able now to help them also to grow. So situationships, they are caused by mostly economical factors. Others is just for fun, you know, and to fulfill their sexual desires.
One pertinent thing that you bring on board, judgment. And in most cases, yes, society will judge you. In most cases, you will judge yourself. Because you are like, what am I doing? Is this the right thing? I'm enjoying the moment. Am I even enjoying? You know, you are just somewhere there confused. So this aspect of judgment, how then do we approach it? How then do we handle it? Because it's not everyone who will sit down to listen to your story and know why you got yourself into that. Sometimes even the person that you are in a situationship with judges you.
There are those societal graces that we really hold dearly, you know, like you would say that I would really want to look like I'm married or act like I'm married, and you hold on to that. So anyone offering any relationship, you're there, pop, you're gone, you know, and then you end up in a very toxic relationship. But if you only free yourself when you're okay with who you are. I am a single woman, I am a married woman, I am this and this. First of all, define yourself. Are you okay with that? Then what are your goals? Set that and, you know, work towards that. Stay focused. This is in terms of even relationships. And then again, you need to know, who is this that I'm attracting? What is the pattern? Am I attracting people who are violent? And what is it that is making me, you know? And that, you can only learn that when you seek therapy. Because when you sit with a therapist, they actually, you know, bring the blind spot onto you or to your conscious mind, and you're able to see, like, I think I'm attracting this because this is what I'm familiar with. This is what my father used to do. So this is my norm. So can I do different? Can I date someone who's totally different? So you can only seek that through therapy. And the other thing is, you also need to know your environment. So if you, like Linda, a journalist, you're likely to spend the whole day with people in your kind of work. Is that what you want? Because then again, you also need to find time to go to an environment where you'll attract people who are of what, or with the potential, whatever kind of criteria you want to attract. Those are things that you really need to know. But you cannot know all that. And I insist on this, if you are not self-aware. Because when you're self-aware, you're mindful of yourself. You live a more healthier life, because when you're a bit stressed, you know how to deal with that. When you're a bit anxious, you find out what is causing this anxiety, and you're able to cope better when you're aware. Yes, because you cannot offer anything good if you don't have it.
All right. Well, amazing. And as we get to wind up, why they're called situationships is because, well, you find yourself in them because of a situation.
Yes.
So in the event that you honestly have no other option but to get yourself into this, how do you sail through? How do you swim and ensure that eventually when you're exiting the stage, you are not hurt? You do not damage yourself even more?
You need to you got to understand what is your value system and your self-worth. Because if you allow people's opinion to come into your head, they will pin you down. But if you are there and you've understood that this is me, and be able to be comfortable with yourself, no matter what people will tell you, provided your stand and your self-worth is still standing, you will not stumble. So once you are there, do not judge yourself so much. Be able to forgive yourself. Forgiving yourself and accepting that, you know what, this happened, how can I move forward?
Right.
Through that, you can be able to heal and move straight forward without so much getting to understand what will people say. Because at the end of the day, they will talk. At the end of the day, they will just have to talk. You do not have permission to control them on what to say, but you have permission on how you perceive what they say.
Right.
So just be yourself and forgive yourself.
And as you forgive yourself, how do you get this other person not hurt? If I told you had an agreement that we are getting into this, and now finally I found somebody else and I need to move on, I need to get married, so it's time that we end this, situationship that we were in, or this aspect of we were friends with benefit, and still maintain the respect or the bond that would have been between the two of you.
I think it's talking it out. If this person, you can reason with this person and just talk about how you're feeling, not the person, not the kind of person he is. I don't like the way you do this. I don't tackle the issue, and then you'll be able to at least part ways in a friendly manner. If you're mature,
are there ways where you'd get this person, becoming better in the next relationship that they march into?
Yes, if you give feedback.
All right.
Because it's very important to give feedback in a relationship. Like if I told Alan, your tone is irritating.
Okay.
I'm not talking about Alan the person. It's the tone. That's the issue. I think he'll be more self-aware. He'll go on a self-discovery journey and ask people, what do you think about my tone? Go back maybe to his mom or his sisters and they'll give him feedback. So you should actually be able to give feedback without being catching feelings. That's the word we use. And you should also be able to receive feedback positive
and adjust. All right, Nancy Rahab, psychologist, and Alan Lawrence, life coach, thank you so much for the great insight. It was an interesting session, though time would not allow us to expound some more, but I'm sure someone has picked something that will be helpful. I have personally picked something, and by the way, my experience, yes, I've been there before, but story for another time. Thank you so much for your time. That's where we get to wind up Morning Cafe this morning. We look forward to see you again tomorrow, same time. God bless. My name is Linda Alela. Thank you.
Mount Kenya University takes pride in being an academic giant with some of the best infrastructure, imparting knowledge to the best brains in the country and the region. Our members of faculty are keen to deliver market-driven programs in science and humanities with a keen focus on linkages with relevant organizations. We admit both self-sponsored and government-sponsored students under the Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Service. Join us to
Goal moja, goal mbili.